Hello everyone and welcome to semi-finals of the Tuning Village tournament. I don't have anything else to say, so let's get into it. So, for this round, the 12 remaining competitors will drive 5 laps around Motorland. Not only that, but they will also be equipped with economy tires, meaning that there's gonna be lots and lots of chaos. But before we begin, I just wanted to take a look back on how some of these slower contenders managed to make it here. So first off, there's Marzo. At first, the expectations for the Trueno were pretty low, as it was one of the slower cars of the tournament and it started in last place in its respective race. But despite the unfair circumstances, he still managed to outperform me and make it into the second round. And given that in round 2 he was put up against 2 of the fastest cars of the entire tournament, it was no surprise to see him instantly get overtaken. But other than that, he managed to get a 3rd place and move on to the next round just by cock blocking. And in round 3, the fact that Serial Killer got bonked at the end allowed him to get out of the danger zone and move on to the semi-finals where he is now. And I'm gonna be quite shocked if he makes it into the finals. Next, we have Rosie Miranto. In round 1, he was in a long and intense battle against Mavis Morte, but in the end, he came out on top. In round 2, he kinda managed to cruise his way into round 3. Not much else to say there. But speaking of round 3, Rosie Miranto managed to do pretty good despite having the slowest car in his respective race, even managing to get a 1st place for a bit before getting overtaken by Pin and HW. And his enormous lead over I Like Cars allowed him to take 3rd place and to make it here. Up next, we have Fancy Wreck. In round 1, he was pretty much set, as he started in pole position and managed to keep the 1st place for a while before getting overtaken by Mad Jester, finishing in 2nd and moving on to the next round, where he was kinda struggling, as he was getting slowed down by Marzo throughout the whole race. But luckily not enough for Obiso to overtake him, as he finished the race in 4th. And round 3 for Fancy Wreck was just like round 1 for most part. And the fact that What Is Love got bonked allowed Fancy Wreck to take 2nd place and move on to the semi-finals. And then we have Night Drive, aka the underdog of this tournament, as he started his respective race in last place. But the fact that Apollo got screwed over by the AI allowed Night Drive to overtake him and make it into the next round. In round 2, he managed to pull a very intense battle between him and Serial Killer, which he ended up losing in the end, but still managed to take 3rd place and move on to the 3rd round, in which he was struggling just as much, if not more so, than round 1, as D2V got bonked at the beginning, flying into Night Drive, causing him to go off track as well, and causing him to fall down to the elimination zone for a while. But just like Marzo, he managed to get out of the danger zone just because Serial Killer got bonked by the truck. Next up, we have Ferrari and the last remaining front-wheel drive car in this tournament. And just like any front-wheel drive car in this game, at first, there wasn't that many expectations for it. He managed to stay in 2nd place before getting overtaken by Mad Jester and fell down to 3rd place where he was for most of the race, before doing an AI fail moment and losing the podium to I Like Cars. In round 2, he kinda used Slaughter as a cushion to free his fall and move on to the 3rd round. And in round 3, he was kinda struggling like a front-wheel drive car would in this game, which was the case until Martis sacrificed himself so Ferrari could move on. And I've gotta say, if this car makes it into the finals, everyone's gonna be extremely surprised. And finally, we have Julie Canotto. In round 1, on Julie Canotto's respective race, there was a lot of chaos going on while Julie was just chilling in the middle of everything. And that fact alone allowed Julie Kanoto to make it into the second round, where Julie Kanoto managed to breeze through the competition with racing super hard tires, managing to get a victory and moving on to the third round. And in round 3, this will be quite shocking, but Julie Kanoto was stuck behind Thunderstorm Gaming for a while and was struggling for the entire race just as much, if not more so, than Night Drive, which was the case until What Is Love got bonked, which allowed Julie Kanoto to overtake him and make it here. Anyways, now that we appreciated the hard work of some of these slower drivers, let the economy tire madness begin. So, for the first race, we have D2V, Marzo, HW, Julie Kanoto, Luca, and Pin. And now let's see if these cars can still dominate even with economy tires. Not even the first corner came around and HW already managed to overtake Marzo, and so did Julie Kanoto on the long corner. Meanwhile, in the back, you can see Pin and Luca struggling despite being the OP ones here. And oh yeah, I forgot to mention this. Whoever finishes in the bottom 3 of each race is eliminated, while the top 3 of each race will move on to the finals. Anyways, Julie Kanoto tries to catch up to HW but doesn't seem to be succeeding as of right now. Meanwhile, D2V is entering the main obstacle for this course, the Death Corner, which he very easily manages to clear alongside Julie and HW. But the same cannot be said for Marzo, who almost went wide because of it. And that fact alone allowed Luca to overtake him, and now switches their focus to trying to get a podium spot. And then Marzo goes wide again on the long corner, which allowed Pin to overtake him. And it looks like the 86's plot armor has officially worn off. As for Pin and Luca, they are, quite surprisingly, struggling to catch up to Julie Kanoto. And Julie Kanoto is struggling to catch up to HW, who's struggling to catch up to D2V, who's just chilling in first place. But things might change if one of them goes wide on the Death Corner, which apparently doesn't seem to be the case as of right now. In the back, Luca and Pin are still struggling to catch back up to the others, while Marzo is slowly getting left in the dust. And we're already on the third lap. This is going by a lot faster than I thought it would. And D2V goes wide, and so does HW. And Julie Kanoto has serious problems on the horizon, as Pin and Luca are slowly but steadily catching up to him. I think it's safe to say everyone is struggling in these economy tires. Anyways, on the podium, Julie Kanoto managed to successfully catch up to HW, but not quite enough to overtake. Meanwhile, D2V and HW are having a very intense battle for first place, which D2V is winning as of right now and doesn't seem to be giving up at any point. Meanwhile, further back, I hope Julie Kanoto took some notes from Night Drive because he's gonna need them. Meanwhile, Marzo is completely screwed. But still, congrats for making it this far. Anyways, it looks like Luca has managed to catch up to Julie Kanoto, but the same cannot be said for Pin, as Pin is severely struggling to even keep up. But the race is not over yet. Pin still has an opportunity to catch back up, while HW goes wide for a second and Julie Kanoto uses that opportunity to catch up. But again, not quite enough for him to overtake Stunt Track Driver. Meanwhile, Pin successfully caught up to Luca, and now is struggling to overtake them due to having the gear shifts of a Cadillac CN. Meanwhile, Julie Kanoto uses the Death Corner to his advantage to pull away from Luca a bit. Currently in the bottom half are Luca, Pin, and Marzo. But will things change on the final lap? We're about to find out. In the distance, you can see D2V and HW drove into the sand trap, causing them to lose a lot of time. And same goes for the Carbonar. although Pin managed to recover pretty much instantly, while Luca tries to overtake Julie Canotto but doesn't seem to succeed, as Julie Canotto isn't willing to give up a spot into the finale. Meanwhile, D2V and HW's battle for first place continues as they make their way to the finish line. And now all they have to do is make it past the death corner successfully and cross the finish line to make it into the finale, which no one except for Julie Canotto manages to do. And despite their skill issues, D2V and HW are still in the top 2, and HW manages to pull a last-second overtake on D2V, taking first place for himself, with D2V in second and Julie Canotto in third. Marzo, Luca, and Pin were strong competitors. However, their journey ends here. For the second race, we have Fancy Wreck, SVT, Night Drive, Rosie Miranto, Ferrari, and Mad Jester. And off they go, may the best one win. Right off the bat, SVT tries to overtake Fancy Wreck but doesn't seem to succeed as of right now. Meanwhile in the back, Ferrari is already having problems with understeer, and Mad Jester uses that opportunity to overtake him. And it looks like Ferrari is already falling behind. Meanwhile, Rosie Miranto is struggling to catch up to the podium with his chaser. And he also knows that Mad Jester and his S2000 GT1 are very OP, so he's doing everything to prevent it from overtaking him. Meanwhile in the front, SVT and Fancy Wreck are making their way to the death corner, so let's see if they make it past. And so far it looks like everybody made it past the death corner, although Ferrari almost hit the pit barrier and is slowly getting left in the dust. In the front, I know you can't see it, but SVT and Fancy Wreck are having a very intense battle against each other, and Night Drive joins the battle as he manages to catch up to them on the long corner, while Rosie Miranto is busy holding off Mad Jester. But unfortunately, his plan of holding off Mad Jester failed. Meanwhile on the podium, Night Drive successfully manages to overtake a car that is twice as fast as him, and now switches his focus to trying to catch up to Fancy Wreck, who at the moment is just chilling in first place, but things might change on the upcoming death corner. So here goes the S2000, and the death corner was a success. But not for Mad Jester, as he hit the pit barrier, almost causing an AI fail moment to happen and allowing Rosie Miranto to catch back up. Meanwhile, I'm only guessing that the same thing happened to Ferrari, and unlike Mad Jester, it actually caused the AI fail moment to happen. Rest in peace, Ferrari and his front-wheel drive Celica. Meanwhile in the front, Mad Jester makes an already intense battle even more intense. Now, I didn't actually see what happened, but I'm guessing Night Drive managed to successfully overtake Fancy Wreck and is now in first place. Anyways, Mad Jester managed to catch up to SVT on this corner and now is trying to overtake him, while Rosie Miranto is struggling to catch back up to the others. I guess Mad Jester's overtaking attempt wasn't really successful. Wait, Mad Jester goes wide into the pit lane. Rest in peace, Mad Jester, man. And I guess Rosie Miranto uses that opportunity to overtake him while he's still in the pits. Man, that was really unexpected. Anyways, I guess Rosie Miranto still has a chance to hold off Mad Jester from making it to the podium. Meanwhile in the front, for the first time ever in this tournament, Night Drive is in first place, with SVT and Fancy Wreck still battling for second place. And unfortunately for them, Rosie Miranto was unable to hold off Mad Jester from making it to the podium, meaning that SVT and Fancy Wreck have a huge problem on the horizon, unless Mad Jester goes wide on the death corner again. Speaking of which, both Fancy Wreck and SVT go wide on the death corner, but not enough to hit the pit barrier. And same goes for Mad Jester, allowing them to pull away a bit. And in the bottom three currently is Mad Jester, Rosie Miranto, and Ferrari. But let's see if things will change on the final lap. Of course, there's no way the Trial Celica can recover after this. But still, congrats to Ferrari for making it this far. Meanwhile, Rosie Miranto and Fancy Rex still have a chance of making it out alive. Meanwhile, on the podium, well, we already know Night Drive's getting first place, and I see SBT also managed to overtake Fancy Rex. And now all they have to do is make it successfully past the death corner to make it to the grand finale, which Night Drive successfully manages to do. But as for others, SBT hits the pit barrier but manages to recover, while Fancy Wreck triggered an AI fail moment and Mad Jester barely made it past the pit barrier. And Rosie Miranto also goes wide and hits the pit barrier just like Fancy Wreck. What a race! Both Fancy Wreck and Rosie Miranto died with honor. But still, congratulations to you two and Ferrari for making it this far. And that's about it for today's episode. And just like that, we are down to our 6 finalists. Anyways, if you enjoyed, which I know you did, like the video, and maybe even consider subscribing. I would really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, good luck to the 6 finalists, and I'll see you guys in the grand finale.